好，同志们，我们都在黄光烈烈的站起来，站起来。Welcome to the 286th edition of China Now with your gang of two. Nan Su, who is the senior investigative reporter for Epoch Times, and yours truly, Michael Olson, who long ago was dissuaded from being a China hand by the great helmsman himself, Mao Zedong. Each week, Nansu and I look out across the broad expanse of the Pacific Ocean from our home port here at SantaCruzVoice.com, and we ask, China now, friend or foe, war or peace? Ni hao, Nansu.
Hey, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending where you are.
Well, Nansu, you've been talking nonstop for days here about what's going on. What is going on?
Well, Trump is having a very successful visit to Beijing.
It's very successful.
Yes.
That's good news. Because when he was headed over there, he was going to be certain to talk about rare earths and fentanyl and trade and purchase commitments and political prisoners in Taiwan and Iran and Ukraine and Russia and artificial intelligence and cyber attacks and all kinds of things. Do you
None
think
of them, it's actually none of them is important.
what is important?
Well, the most important thing is, first of all, Trump has a very strong card in his hand, right? Ever since
He walked into the poker game with a great hand.
Yes, ever since the beginning of of April, which was last month, Beijing has been purchasing U.S. oil for more than 500,000 barrels a day.
And paying rate card too, right?
Yeah,
Paying the price.
paying the price, buying U.S. oil. So, last month alone, China purchased like about 18 million U.S. oil. So which is great. So we do have the upper hand now. So the most successful thing that Trump has done uh in this visit is he had Xi Jinping state publicly that Iran shall not have nuclear weapon.
That's what the big news is, isn't it? Right there.
That is the biggest breakthrough.
And
So
the other part of that agreement, I think, Nansu, is that Iran must open up the Straits of Hormuz.
now that part, it's not the bottom line of Trump, right? The bottom line of Trump is Iran shall not have nuclear
Yeah,
weapons,
that's true.
right? So now, what I think what Trump worry is if U.S. military move to its next step to trying to solve the Iranian regime's nuclear program, then maybe there are some um, military uh, actions taken by China in the Western Pacific, right? But we so that was his worry. Now that we have Xi Jinping publicly say Iran shall not have nuclear weapon, then that calmed down a lot of anxiety of the U.S. allies in the Western Pacific. And then also it paved the way for the U.S. Military to move on to the next step.
Which is,
Well, I think, Iranian regime, just like what Trump said, they either give up their nuclear weapon, or we are going to go into to obliterate it.
now that's an interesting one too, because I wonder how Xi Jinping approached Trump with the decapitation of his allies in Venezuela and Iran.
It was not mentioned.
It was not mentioned. You don't think they brought it up at all?
Well, I think the only thing Xi Jinping basically said it's about Taiwan. They say Taiwan is China's
Yeah.
core interest. Don't mess up with Taiwan, which is they have been Xi Jinping has been saying that all these years, nothing changed, right? So the key importance here is that Trump did not back off from U.S. government's existing uh, policy on Taiwan.
So
So
those are two big scores then for Trump.
yeah, yeah. So basically, you can see that how important that oil to China is. Basically, now
Wow.
they have to buy oil from United States. They have nobody else can turn to. So basically, the only thing left is Trump has to make the final decision how they are going to solve the nuclear program problem in Iran. That's it.
And he has had Xi Jinping's assurances that Iran should not have nuclear weapons. I've been thinking about that with Nansu with respect to why did China allow North Korea to have nuclear weapons?
Well, see, uh,
Is
okay.
it, is it, aren't they similar? I mean, you have,
No, they are not similar, right? They're totally different, right? See, China and on the surface, China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, they all want to have a nuclear program. But however, if you look at that, the Chinese leaders, they are no different than North Korea leaders. They want to have good life. They want to live in a very luxury life. That's what they want.
Mhm.
There's never in a minute in their mind that they are going to think about going to heaven by being a suicide bomber,
Not,
right? So that's the fundamental ideological level difference
well,
that
I understand that, but they're both totalitarian fascist regimes.
right. So
And
so
and
basically,
they both run by people that you wouldn't want to have as neighbors. Let me put
that's
it that way.
right. That's right. Now think about this. Although Beijing and Iran can make a alliance against the United States, but without United States, then what happened? They cannot coexist with each other. It already happened in Iran, in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s, at the beginning when they the Iranian.
This was right after they deposed the Shah
Yeah, yeah,
and the
right.
clerics
Well,
took
actually,
over.
before it actually is before that, right? The religious extremists that they actually build a collaboration with the Marxists in Iran because they have a common enemy, which is the United States.
Okay.
But after they build a religious regime in Iran, then they send all the Marxists behind the bars. So.
In their essence, though, I still think that Islamic or religious uh, radicals are as are just like Marxist radicals in that they have this totalitarian streak about them
Well,
that
yeah, on the
we are the only people in the world that should exist because we're the only ones smart enough to exist. God is on our side, or Karl Marx is on our side, and he's not on your side, and
well, the
therefore,
problem the problem is God and Karl Marx. They don't get along each other.
yeah, that's strange bedfellows for sure, right? God and Karl Marx. Oh boy. At any rate, they both are totalitarian regimes,
On
both,
political level.
yeah, both flanking China, as it were. Uh, Korea, South or North Korea to the northeast, Iran to the southwest, and they're kind of like protectors. So China allowed North Korea to have a nuclear weapon, but what is going to stand in their way to prevent Iran from getting that nuclear weapon?
Well, I don't think China has the power to tell Iran, to give up because
Yeah,
they don't agree with each other ideologically, right? So, but however, the way that Xi Jinping openly say that Iran shall not have a nuclear weapon, that just paved the way uh, and legitimacy for the U.S. government to make further decision to go to Iran to solve the problem. So I think that's the biggest breakthrough, um, and but still, while at the same time we need to solve the problem in Iran, we still actually have to still worry, even though Xi Jinping openly say Iran shall not have a nuclear program, but we still have to have our military, um,
back it up.
yeah, fully alert in the Western Pacific region, because that's very important.
So, do you think the meeting between Xi and Trump will actually have an impact on the status of the conflict in Iran? I mean,
Well,
they
well,
could both agree, but what politicians often do is agree in principle, but forget about it when it comes to the details.
we don't know enough yet, right, at this moment, because the meeting still they probably still have like half day meeting tomorrow, actually in our time tonight. So we will know more when Trump and his team coming back to the United States.
Mhm. So after these meetings, these diplomatic readings, they most often have a readout of what was discussed, but not necessarily what the outcome of the discussion was. And that's pretty much what we have now, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we have now, we don't have the readout. We only have the open statement, from both sides.
Right.
We have the each of them say in the beginning of the meeting before they close doors, and also we have what Trump and Xi speech during the state banquet dinner last night. I would say, actually in Beijing, that's what. Yeah, it was last night, right?
Right.
So, if you listen to their speech, it was interesting. There was a difference there. Although both sides, hey, try to emphasize the United States and China has a long relationship. But if you really listen carefully, uh, you can find out actually, um, Xi Jinping is talking about the U.S.-China relations since Henry Kissinger visited Beijing. While Trump talked about the long history starting from 1784 all the way until World War II, that was the stopping point because after World War II, the communist
The
regime.
communists took over and things fell
So,
apart.
so Trump really talk about the long history, and between traditional China and the United States, while Xi Jinping talk about the communist regime's relation with U.S. government. So I think there is a huge difference there. Trump really trying to differentiate the Chinese culture and Chinese people from the communist regime. That's what he's trying to do
And
there.
Nansu, that's a very astute observation in listening to these two people and their presentations. Because I think when it comes right down to it, that difference between our long relationship with China and then our non-existent relationship with China after World War II and after the Chinese took over really defines the conflict over our relationship with Taiwan because Taiwan really was part of that relationship
That's right. So
going back forever.
Yeah, Taiwan it's a part of that, it's very important was a very important ally of United States in World War II, right? Not the communist China. So now I mean Taiwan's government, not Taiwan, because Taiwan, during World War II, they are
The
still
Japanese.
communist. They are a part of the Japan's sovereignty, right? So now that that gets complicated, right? So now and there was some also some interesting things that happening around the I'm not around the this visit, right? If you really look at closely, you can find out the difference under the surface of both sides getting along. And the first thing is Trump did not bring the first lady to China.
Big deal. That's a big deal. Now, either Trump did not bring her or she refused to come, one of the two.
It
The
doesn't matter, right? It fits the environment. It's like, why do you still need this first lady of develop those things, relations? It
yeah.
doesn't really, it's not important anymore. We are against each other clearly, right?
Okay.
So
So
we
then
let's just talk about the business, get things done.
so that's it's a clear indication that Trump came to do business and not to have a party.
That's right. And
Right.
that's number one. And then if you look at China, China also did something to express their whatever they're feeling, right? So you look at the red carpet, the red carpet stop at the stair, you know, and then on the stairs, that connects from the ground level to
To
the
the airplane.
Air Force One, it doesn't have a red carpet. So there's a little piece of a red carpet missing there. That's that's the second thing. And the number one thing, number three is that I'm not sure if you heard the news. All the U.S. Media teams and all the medias, not just the U.S. Every media. Now during Xi Jinping and Trump when they went to Temple of Heaven in Beijing, which was early morning today. Actually, in China, well, it's in the probably afternoon today, right? Well, it's already afternoon today in China. So when Xi Jinping and Trump went to Temple of Heaven, um, that all the media was locked out in the room. They are not allowed the media to go out until American media team they say they just we have to go. They just move. They just rush out. They just went out of the room and they couldn't stop them.
Well, and they
And
did.
all the other media team, like including the Chinese media team and other countries' media, they are just there watching.
And that's very interesting also the way in which the press is treated because typically when they have their get together, two heads of state, they reserve a minute or two for the press. But I think at the opening of the get together, Xi and Trump got together and the press was allowed to take pictures and then shoot right out the door. Get out of here. We're going to have a conversation and it's not with you. So, uh, and I guess our press would find it hard pressed to be so shuffled about, as it were, and not have the opportunity to ask the questions.
Well, American media, of course, they feel the sharp difference, right? They are in White House, or they are, in the press room of White House, or they are at the lawn of White House. They were so free, and then they can ask any question, even the harsh questions, right? So now they are in Beijing now. They got locked into a room. It was a very dark. If you look at the video, it was a room that's very dark. I'm not sure if they have the lights turned on.
They were keeping them in the dark, literally and figuratively.
And
And
also, there's another story, when Xi Jinping accompanied Trump, and when they went to the Temple of Heaven, that there was a Secret Service. He probably bare arms. He was stopped by the Chinese. I'm not sure it was a national security team or whatever. They had a big argument over there for a long time. I'm not sure eventually they let him in, but it caught everybody's attention.
well, and that's not the first time that's happened, is it?
No,
That's
it
happened
was.
before
It
when,
happened before last time,
yeah.
when Trump visited Beijing in the Great Hall of People. That's how they met the first time, yesterday, for the meeting. Last time when they went there, the Service and Chinese National Security Police, they even like pushing each other around. And they had that kind of a clash over there.
Yeah. Now, when you think about it, it really is a clash of cultures in its most obvious way. When you have two security people trying to come to grips with each other, and one does it one way and another does it the other way, so bound to have quite a mix up there sooner or later. One thing I wanted to ask you is, how is this get together being pitched to the Chinese people? Because you have the U.S. president flying in on that 747, which is a pretty obvious airplane. Everybody in the world knows what it is. And and you have all of this secrecy around almost everything. How is the Chinese Communist Party pitching this to the people of China? I'll pick that up after this quick break. Ladies and gentlemen, this is China Now with your gang of two, Nansu, Michael Olson, and you as well. I guess you're making a gang of three. When we come back, after this very brief message, we're going to talk about how the CCP is presenting this Trump visit to the people of China. Right back.
Satisfy your hunger with the fresh, prepared, twice-daily grab-and-go sushi you'll find waiting for you at Sushi Market Sprouts, 2 blocks from the beach at 300 7th Avenue in Santa Cruz. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
Hello, I'm Junko, and I look forward to serving you at the Sushi Market Sprouts.
Satisfy your hunger right now with the delicious ramen and sushi you'll find waiting for you at Kaito, easy in and out location in the Capitola Mall food court. Special orders welcome. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
This is Koji. I'm looking forward to seeing you at my restaurant, Kaito.
California coast to the fertile valleys inland. Earthwise Land Services, your land's best friend. Earthwise can clear it, mulch it, move it, sculpt it, grade it, drain it, or retain it, any way you choose. Earthwise Land Services, your land's best friend.
Hi, I'm Carolyn, and I have some property behind my home at Larkin Valley that I've never seen. It was completely overgrown with brush and poison oak, well over 10 feet high. I wanted to have it cleared to protect my horses from wildfires, but nobody could do the job. Then I called Buck at Earthwise. Buck brought out his big brush-eating machine and turned all the brush and poison oak into mulch. It was truly transformational. Thanks to Earthwise, my property is now like a park and I can trail ride my horses.
Earthwise Land Services, your land's best friend.
There is more than one way to enjoy the benefits of cannabis. Hi, I'm Carly from Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 SoCal Drive, SoCal. With tinctures. Treehouse tinctures are available in many different flavors, are rapid acting and versatile, and offer precise dosage control for consistent enjoyment. Treehouse has a friendly staff to help you select the right tincture for your needs. Blue raspberry, anyone? Stop by and say hi. Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 SoCal Drive, SoCal.
Or ourtreehouse.io.
Well, I saw the most interesting feed out of China, out of Beijing. A couple young ladies were busy working their cell phones on a mass transit. And one of them said to the other, they're telling us to be nice to America and no more saying bad things about America as long as President Trump is here. And the other one says, well, do you think they'll tell us when we can say bad things about America again? So I guess what the CCP is telling all of its citizens is to say nice things about China when the Americans are in town. And you have to wait till the Americans leave town to say what you really think. Is that about the way it's being pitched to the people, Nansu?
Yeah. uh, well, I'm not sure if that's what they tell. But basically, I think those people being selected to do the interview probably, they are the like they are the ones like what like those small pink, little pink, those kind of people.
Yeah, little people. And we often wonder what they think because everything they seem to think is stopped at the firewall and not much percolates out. When I was in the service in the Far East, our ship would stop in various countries along the first island chain, as it were. And I was always fascinated with the various cultures, but there was always the culture of China that was just beyond the horizon that nobody wanted to talk about. And that, for some reason, their reluctance to talk about it made me all the more curious about it. And I just wondered what was going on behind that red curtain. And I guess we still do when it gets right down to it, because they still have that firewall set up so that there's no free communication between the Chinese people and the people of the West.
Well, that's true. Most of people do not realize that, at least they're not really look through that curtain and realize that's what's happening though.
Guess so. Now, there's a lot of hope being expressed that the two nations, the number one and number two nations, the top two economies in the world, can figure out how to talk things through. And as Marco Rubio suggests, learn how to manage all of the conflicts that we have together in competition, in our economic and political and cultural and philosophical conflicts that we have between the two nations. Somehow there's the hope that we could figure out how to get along, but also from Rubio's perspective, the realization that we must figure out how to manage all of these conflicts. And so they're sitting down together, and that is what is on the table. Because one doubts whether they're going to come up with any significant agreements on these tough issues like just fentanyl, for example. we'll agree that we must stop it. We'll arrest a couple of people here and there, but the fentanyl trade will keep going on. And the same is true with the arms trades and everything else. Do you think that there actually can be an agreement between the two countries?
It doesn't matter, right? Agreement or no agreement, it's China is never going to keep their words. So agreement or not agreement, it doesn't really make difference. Now, I think that we Trump get what he want from China. So China stay, because everyone knows the biggest supporter of Iranian regime is the Chinese regime, and now
Yep.
Xi Jinping said Iran shall not have nuclear weapon. So that basically um, it gave us the choice wherever that we need to do to disable the nuclear program in Iranian regime. Now, go back to your question. You talk about what she want, right? We have to
Yes.
now what she want. Now, I think she basically pretty much get what he want too. Now, when Trump sitting there, during the open meeting part, where media's all there, Trump sitting in front of across the table from Xi Jinping, and he when he spoke to Xi Jinping, you see Xi Jinping's smile because Trump says we have a good relation, and then we bring all these top U.S. business leaders here to see you to try to do business. I think that's the moment she is looking for because in Xi's mind she doesn't care anything else, but he need this moment. Um, I bet he's going to play that again and again in the Chinese state-owned media. So that will pave the way for him to continue into his fourth term next year in November or October of 21st, the CCP National Party Conference. So that's what she want. Now,
So wait just a sec. Xi gave Trump what he wants when he said that Iran should not have the nuclear weapons. That was Trump's win. Xi's win is when Trump, through bringing all of these tech and our big business people to China to present them to Xi Jinping, that Xi Jinping is going to use that as as if Trump is blessing a fourth term as
no,
president.
I don't think Trump will blessing his fourth term, but that's how she's going to use
Is
that
going to
moment.
use it. Yeah.
Yeah, and now Trump's mission is to defend the peace in the Western Pacific, right? With
Yeah.
U.S. military more and more into Iran, we do have that worry, about the stability of Western Pacific, what's going to happen in Taiwan Strait, and Japan Sea, in South China Sea near the Philippines. Those are the worries not only from the Trump but also the allies of United States
Everybody in the Pacific.
in the Pacific region in the Pacific region, right? So
And the reason is that China is not building a military to take over Taiwan. China is building a military to take over the Pacific.
that's right. So and it's important that the United States is also a power in the Pacific region, right? So so that's what everybody. So Trump is there for the long term stability, and also short term wise, he need to hear Xi Jinping make that statement that the Iran cannot have nuclear weapon. So Trump get it now. Xi Jinping, because we don't care who is going to be the fourth term in Beijing. We don't care. Why do you
Because they're
care?
the CCP.
They are all the CCP. If it's Xi Jinping or different Jinping or whoever the Jinping is, it's
As long
Xi.
as it's the Communist Party.
Yeah, it make no difference to us, but to Xi, that's important, right? Personally, to Xi, it's important. He wants to continue into his fourth term, especially, he's facing all these challenges of China's economy, uh, all the challenges. So he want to continue his into his fourth term. He needs something,
Yeah.
right? He needed something to convince his comrades in the CCP, right?
Do you, a quick aside, do you think Xi Jinping sees himself as the emperor of the Red Dynasty?
I don't think he sees himself as an emperor. I mean, the common emperors, they all belong to heaven. That's how this temple
Ah,
of heaven was.
okay.
That's how this temple of heaven was built in the 15th century by Ming Dynasty emperors. In And also the whole city of Beijing, whole city of Beijing. If you really look at how it was planning during how it was planned in the planning stage, how it was laid out, it completely every detail reflects Taoist philosophy, how the humanity connect to the heaven. So that's the how it was the whole city, original one. I mean, not the new one, modern one. The original one, when you originally was built, it by the Mongolian. Say Mongolian came to Beijing, and then they start building, lay out this city, but they didn't build because Mongolian at that time they didn't have that long uh, history of culture, and then when they conquered China, they hired the Chinese culture expert.
And they
Expert.
also adopted a lot of the religion as well, did they not?
Oh yeah, yeah. They uh uh say they adopt when Mongolian first came to the central part of China. They didn't even believe Buddhism. So it was later, they kind of like it was a Tibetan that's like the first the Dalai Lama converted them to Buddhism belief. But however, when they after they conquered China, they hired the local Chinese culture expert, which is it's a lot longer history of culture than Mongolian culture, right? So they hired the local Chinese culture expert, planned the whole city of Beijing based on Taoist philosophy. Now that was the Yuan dynasty. That was before the Ming Dynasty. Now, after Ming Dynasty took over China, they start building in the 15th century. They build this Temple of Heaven, Temple of Earth, Temple of Sun, Temple of Moon. Uh, those things still, based on the Taoist philosophy. But however, if you look at the Chinese Communist regime, they never go to the temple of heaven, worship heaven. They don't even believe heaven,
Right.
right? So it's interesting that, but however, they use those as a tourist spot. They reserve those places as a tourist spot, and they can make money. President Ford went there, who was the first president who went there, and Trump is the second U.S. president went to Temple of Heaven.
And it seems as though Xi Jinping is often going and visiting Buddhist temples or whatnot. And though he is a communist and disavows the presence of God, he always seems to have this fundamental spirituality that's trying to break out as well. So I just wondered if there wasn't a sense that he is connected to heaven, as it were, as the emperor of the Red Dynasty.
Yeah,
That's just
emperor.
that's just me thinking. I'm sure
I don't I don't
you don't want to go along down that way.
I
Fine.
don't yeah. They are the way you look at the if any communist leaders, if they truly believe Buddhism, they wouldn't treat the Buddhist temple the way they treated them. And then
Of course not.
if they believe anything that's above the power of the regime as a more higher moral standard, if they have any recognition of those things, they wouldn't treat any religions in China the way they have done. So,
And are doing, as a matter of fact. You know, back in May, the U.S. Congress passed a resolution urging Trump to address political prisoners when he's in China, especially Jimmy Lai. But not just Jimmy Lai. Chinese pastor Jin Mengri and his wife, uh, Bang Yu, and retired Uyghur medical doctor Gulshan Abbas. So there's a collection of political prisoners that represent freedom that have been locked up by the CCP, and the Congress is urging Trump to address these issues. Set Jimmy Lai free. Any possibility of that?
uh, I don't. I never really gave much thought on these kind of things. It just Chinese regime has been very good on this ever since in the 80s, 90s. They sell China's political dissidents to make a fool of the Western world. Every time you have Clinton, you have George W. Bush, when they meet with Chinese leader, and then the Chinese leader will put up this show. Oh, they will release couple Chinese political dissidents, just so you can go home and tell the Congress, tell
That
them
you did something?
you did something for China's human rights.
Okay.
It's a
That's a
show.
very cynical view, Don Su.
Yeah, it's a show. I basically, I did something. Nothing get done basically. So I'm really don't. It's not that I do care the personal safety and well-being of Jimmy Lai, but I pay minimum attention to those. Those are I call show business. It
Yeah.
doesn't really change China. So the what's going to really change China is your U.S. government's China policy, how they going to deal with the CCP regime, and I think sanction is the best thing. Sanction China. Although now it's not possible, but in the future when it comes to possibility, I think we should do it. But now because we need a peace, we need to defend the peace in the Western Pacific. So Trump basically say, you know, doing the trade and doing the economic collaboration with China will defend the peace in the Western Pacific. So that's what he's going to do. And I think that's a good idea too, because the United States, we have been down this road for ever since the global economy started in the early 90s after the collapse of the Soviet Union. We lost our manufacturing industry, and although we still have a number one military in the world, but we need to get our economy
You have
back.
to have the number one economy to
Yeah,
support the number
to
one
support it.
military.
That's it. So I think it's a long-term competition. We need to rebuild our economy. I think as long as our China policy moving in the right direction, long-term wise, um, that we will see the Chinese Communist regime going down the hill. I have no doubt about that, and then I have confidence on the U.S. political system, and also I think eventually China's human rights situation uh, shall not rely on the U.S. government. China's human right, Chinese people need to rely on themselves
No.
to fight for their freedom. They
As
want it. That's what U.S. founding father wanted, right? The U.S. founding father wanted. They fight for it, and they got it. And then if you look at every country, if you look at the Iranian people,
there you go. Same
right?
thing.
So they have to want it first. I don't want to see China become the next Afghanistan or Iraq. It doesn't work that way. Chinese people want freedom. They want a democracy. Then they should fight for it.
No.
I will give them support, but I wouldn't think that U.S. government can actually just go there and give them a democracy. That doesn't work.
No. It's been tried and been proven that it doesn't work. Now, it appears as though Trump is going to China today, right now, to hold a peace, to keep the conversation going,
Yes.
to keep the relationship alive, in spite of the fact that he just decapitated two of Xi's principal allies. I'm here to say I love you, and we just have to figure out how to work together. But Marco Rubio, who is one of the staunchest defenders of personal and political freedom, having been raised a Cuban exile and being raised cognizant of that totalitarian system, he is insisting that we have to figure out how to manage all of these little issues that we're faced with. And we're faced with tons of them when you think about it. All of the issues from the war in Ukraine to the war in Iran and to the arming of the fishing boats in the South China Sea, to all of the issues that we are in contention over have to be managed. And that is the position of Marco Rubio, and I think it's really astute. We have to figure out how to manage each one of those and still hold the relationship together with our principal competitor, and who is, as I see it, an existential competitor.
It's enemy basically. China.
Yeah,
China
it's the enemy,
is the enemy. Yeah.
and so we're talking with our enemy.
Well, it's not a time to fight yet, and I hope never be the time to fight. Uh, uh, the peace, if it's better, we can defend the peace and just watching from the distance that the regime will fall one day. They are falling just looking at their economy. And also I do not think all these business leaders going there. They are actually think all these like CEOs of Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, Blackstone, Citibank. I don't think they really go, even though they are going there with Trump. But I don't think they're really thinking of making investment in China
Because they know what happens and what
because
has
China
happened.
has been in the deflation, right?
Yeah.
China has been in the deflation. Plus, there is an ever-growing geopolitical risk over there. So they are there just looking years ahead future opportunities. They want to get along with these regime leaders, but I don't think they're going to wait until to see that day. As long as our government's China policy keep the same way it is, everything's since the first term of Trump and then Biden and then Trump's second term, as long as they go moving in the same
Oh,
direction, don't change it. It's moving in the right direction. I think China's economy will never come back. I don't think
it,
they will come back.
yeah. Well, that unless they figure out how to turn their demographic collapse around, it can't come back. So
Well,
I
it's the
keep saying,
demographic is collapse is one thing, right? And also this socialist system is another
yeah.
thing.
So I keep seeing reports, more and more reports, that there are not 1.4 billion people in China. It's more like 600 million people in China.
Uh,
Whether I have no idea what the number is.
yeah, well, let's just use the statistic, for now, okay?
Use the one we're given.
Yeah. It's very hard to, otherwise it's very hard to come to a agreement for the conversation purpose, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we do have a doubt for the total GDP and the total population and things like that in China. Actually, it's very hard to come to agreement on any numbers that's given by, if it's given by the Chinese Communist.
Who can you believe? Well, we are there talking, and President Donald Trump flew over there on Air Force One, probably a bunch of other support planes too. I see where he has 13 huge cargo planes to fly in his office. So, he's got the fleet of executive limousines cruising all over the streets of Beijing, and reports are from Beijing that they've been repairing the potholes so that the streets look good and whatnot. And Beijing has been all dressed up. So maybe it is a happy sign. Trump and most of the other Western leaders were very amazed by the greetings that they were given when they landed, by the flowers from the children, and the hoopla was most uplifting. But still, there are so many things that we disagree upon with China, and we have to figure out how to manage those disagreements so that we figure out how to contend without fighting, without getting into a kinetic war like we have with Iran. It's going to be very interesting to see how all of that shakes out. And it is shaking out right now in Beijing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a top of the hour break here for the news. But when we come back, we're going to pick up some of the news of the day from China that is not directly related to the visit, and which we do not have any hard news from, other than the fact that Xi Jinping did admit he did give Trump his best gift, which was to say that China cannot, should not have
Iran,
Iran.
not.
Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. Right back. Stay tuned.